Hold on. What is this? Oh. Ugh. Oh, wait, hold up. So we live. Okay, hold on, y'all. Okay, everybody, welcome, welcome. Today we're doing part 2 of the parenting stream that we began last time. So I don't know, all you guys who were here, the ones who weren't here, we talked about the job description, all of the different things that you are required to do that is in part of your job description, what you're expected to do when you bring a child into this world, and how it directly relates to the attitudes and the abilities of the child that you are responsible for. We secondly talked about harmful traditions in our culture, things that we've done as Black people, as a conglomerate, that have not been very helpful to us, where we got that information from, and why we need to let that information go specifically. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to build on that aspect, right? So if we're looking at parenting as a job description, as an actual life's work and a career, with the actual pension being the type of child that you raise and submit to be in society based on your parenting structure, right? That's your finished product. Why do you not think that there's a grading system for that? And so we have A, B, C, D, F, just like it was in school. We're here in America. That's how schools are graded here. So what I thought we would do for right now is I'm going to talk about the grade that a parent would get, and what that means for the child, what that looks like. And D. Darrell, hopefully you can add in to like maybe examples, or why that will be considered such a grade.
Sure.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you raise your child, right, and you're submitting to the world a well-rounded individual, right? So that would give you the grade of an A. And how well-rounded your child is going to determine whether it's an A plus, a or A minus, right? But either way, this child is well-rounded. What that looks like in adulthood would be an adult that can hold certain conversations appropriately. They can express themselves effectively. They have a certain passion that they want to present to the world that's going to help our community. Everything that that child is capable of doing and willing to do and wants to do, right? So it's their desire, the thing that they want. What's in their heart? What do they want to present to the world, right? Their abilities, whatever it is that they want, can they achieve that? And then if they can, if they want and they can, what does it do for themselves, the family, and the community? If you raise a child that is able to move throughout life with a positive answer to those questions, you get a grade of an A. This would be the worker that gets the raises, the worker that gets the good reviews. So, D. Darrell, you have anything you want to add on to that?
Well, I think that is important that when you talk about well-roundedness, you're talking
Mm.
about ability to adapt, ability to kind of navigate, around different people as far as being versatile. And when you're being well-rounded, it's about how you can function in different areas, different environments, without
Mm-hmm.
it necessarily causing any problems to you from an emotional standpoint. And so, a well-balanced person, a well-rounded person, has the ability to you know adjust to around different people, different places, and doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're
Yeah,
well
this will be the
they're well
person that.
adjusted. Well
Oh, go
adjusted
ahead,
is
D.
what I
Darrell. I
said.
can hear you. What you say?
No, I just said that they're better at being well adjusted to different scenarios.
Exactly. So here's the thing. As an adult, you have to know how to navigate different environments, right? Not everything is work. Not everything is church. Not everything is school. Not everything is home. Not everything is fun and partying, right? So to be able to, that we have a certain thing called life areas. So that will be career, romantic relationships, familiar relationships, platonic relationships, out in public with strangers. It would be, let's see, your social graces, your ability to communicate, your ability to take care of yourself. All of these different things are called your life areas. And so you have to be able to be independent as much as possible for the environment that you're in. You have to be adaptable. This is a person that doesn't easily melt down. This is a person that has emotions, and their emotional intelligence quotient, their emotional IQ is very high. They understand emotions. They understand what those emotions are for. They know how to utilize those emotions. They know how to overcome them without being a burden to someone else to do it. So this is a person that can get, can move throughout society and even the world if they so choose, in a fashion such that they don't need a whole lot of hand holding, and they also don't cause a lot of drama. That is something that as a globe we have all decided is a good and respectable thing. Okay, this was decided millennia before I was even born. That's the answer. That's what all cultures, all countries want out of people who visit there and that they interact with. Okay, it's already set up. Don't question me. I didn't put it that way.
Right? It's already set in stone.
Yeah, like
Historically there.
people have a tendency of questioning stuff, and I'm like, okay, but look, you questioning me specifically about it doesn't change it. Okay, it is what it is for a reason. Who am I to change something that's been in place for thousands and thousands of years before I was even thought of? It obviously worked. You don't think that the previous people thought this out and decided whether it was good or not? It has its purpose. It has a reason.
Exactly.
Okay, so that would be an example of a parent who receives the grade of an A. If you can raise a child that is capable of doing that, and here's the thing, right? What is your benefits package when you raise a child like that? That is a child that not only wants to care about you because they see all of the tools that you set them up in life with. They see how intelligent and knowledgeable you were. They appreciate the help you gave them, so they're willing to take care of you when in the time where you need it, and they have the ability to do so because their adulthood has been one such that they've been able to be successful and independent and even save if need be. You can't require, like, if you raise the kid that is a drain on society, they can't take care of you. With what money? Like, you don't get to ask for that.
Actually, you have to continue to care for them if they, depending on the level of of
Yep,
of, of things that they done, particularly if they went to jail or you're constantly. There are many parents that actually are ruined financially behind trying to keep their kids out of trouble.
exactly. And guess what? And even with that, there are a lot of kids that are in jail because of advice given to them and requirements made by their parents.
I agree. I do agree.
So, yeah,
I want to add in regards to
hmm
the benefits package. We also have to understand that when we look at the fact of when you provide this for your child in turn, like you said, will care for you and do for you, but also that child will also be there in case something happens to you as far as emergencies. It's almost
right,
like it's all reciprocal. So
exactly.
so that child will actually make your days, retirement and latter on your last day, they're going to make those days easier and more comfortable to deal with, and
hmm
because they'll be there to provide you not only from a financial support but also the emotional support and social support that you will need, so they can make sure that you're being taken care of, and they also make sure that other people don't mistreat you or exploit you, because there's a lot of elderly exploitation that goes on. So
Yes, yes, there is. Go ahead.
yeah,
You do it.
and so it's funny you said it. I'm gonna give you an example because we before we went on, we were talking about this kind of goes in with a content. It was a particular person that was on a platform that we were talking about before we went live, and live live while this person was on a platform, he pushed his mother or grandmother, I think.
Mm.
And people saw that. He got angry with her and pushed her on YouTube.
I think I heard about that, but I never knew who it was. I think
Yeah,
it
I
happened
know who
before
it
I got
is.
here.
I just don't want to say the name.
Right, right. No,
But
I'm just saying, like it's been the talk, and even after people stop mentioning the person's name, the behavior still exists. Like it's still out there.
exactly. This person, see, this is an example of what we're talking about. A high grade person, a high grade parent that produced a child that benefit from that would not dare do something like that that could potentially hurt or kill their own parent.
And let's talk about what the A grade means. It means excellence, right? Because C is average and passing. B is above average, and A is highly above average. It's excellent. So if you put excellence into your child is going to have excellence in them to give back to you as you're older. And I do want to make the distinction, right? I don't think parents should raise their children specifically to take care of them in their old age, right? Because while you're raising children, you are also supposed to be putting things aside so that you have as much to contribute to your elderly years, your golden years, as possible. Your kids are not a benefit or a retirement plan, but
Right?
your kids will care about you if they can sense genuine caring about them when they were kids. Here's the thing I tell my parents, right? So I work with kids. I work with kids who are still at home with their biological parents, as well as kids who have been removed and they're placed into a foster family. When your child is no longer legally required to listen to you and abide by your rules, they are going to, as well they should, give you a viewpoint of their experience of your parenting. Now, if you were a parent that was showing your child and explaining to them, and what that is, that's not you answering to your child. That is you teaching. That is you guiding. Okay. If you can't explain it to a 6-year old, you don't understand the topic good enough. So your child is going to let you know in some way or another what they think of your parenting structure. And that's going to determine whether they keep what you taught them and teach their kids or whether they change to something different. So it look forward to that. Sometimes if your kids are just headstrong and you happen to have one of those children that just is just going their own way, then you'll know the difference. But all of these 18-year-olds ain't lying about their parenting, about their childhood.
Right? Uh,
Okay, so let's move on to the letter grade B. Let's say you didn't quite make it to A, right? And hold on, we got a question. How do you spoil a child living in poverty? There's a talking point that black boys are spoiled and the girls are not. Okay, so
there's ways you can spoil. There are
yeah.
plenty of black boys that are spoiled, and I can. Do you want me to talk about that one? Because I can
Yeah,
really.
go ahead and then we're gonna go on to B. Now we're
Okay.
gonna open the panel after we get through A, B, C, D, F.
You see,
So go ahead, Dang. Go
we
ahead, D Darrell.
we think that just because you're poor, that means that people go without. There are plenty of poor people that make bad mistakes with money, and that's the
Hmm.
reason why they're in poverty. It's not the fact that they don't have buying power; is that they refuse to do smart things with money. Therefore, they stay stagnant in the same position. There are plenty of people who are on government assistance or who have low incomes that make sure that child has the latest Jordans, the latest tennis shoes, the Xbox 5, or whatever else they got, or PlayStation 5, or whatever these different games and luxuries that they don't need. They got the iPhone 11, 12, or whatever else. And these people cannot really afford this, but they go out of their way to make sure that these kids get these things without them earning a damn thing. Also, you got to look at the fact that there are a lot of situations in which these boys are being spoiled because they are not giving that they're not being taught work ethic.
Right,
They're not giving the same chores. They're not responsible for, they're more lenient on things that they should be doing in everyday life to develop responsibility and have living or life skills that once they become adults, they're more responsible. And yes, the girls are somewhat um uh taught that because women, in a sense, you naturally understand girls. That's your same sex. You gravitate toward it
right.
because you understand the nature of what your sex has to go through. So that's natural. But when it comes to boys, that's a whole different sex that have to be looked upon and perceived in a different manner because they have to navigate with being male. So it's, to me, I understand why it's done. I don't think that women, particularly in single parent homes, purposely do that. It's just the fact of the matter of us as being the opposite sex or within the same sex, as far as you're going to be harder on the person that you can relate to more as far as what they have to do to become similar to you, as opposed to being a male, which the whole lens of how you're being looked upon and how you have to operate is totally different.
And let me add this, right? So when we think about the word spoiled, I've heard it in relation to infants, meaning you hold them, you coddle them too much. So the word spoil is literally about the end product that you're putting out into the world. If you're putting a person out into the world that is entitled and not willing or capable or understand why they should work for anything that they achieve, then that is a person that is ruined, rotten, and that's where the word spoiled comes from. So it doesn't have anything to do with money per se. People who are wealthy use money to ruin their children, and people who are in poverty use things like love and affection and attention to ruin certain children. So if it's showered on you for no reason, and we're actually going to talk about parenting styles that lead to certain attachments styles in adults later on in the session, in the show, right? So we're going to get to that, Dane, but I'm glad you asked that question, because there is a thing that where in a single mother parent household, right, you'll see the boys grow up and they know little of nothing about manhood. Now, I know D. Darrell is nicer than me, so he says that they're not doing it on purpose. But my issue with that is that if you don't go out and actively look for the information, when you know that you're a single mother, you need to be on the lookout for information to raise a son. You don't get to sit and be complacent. And for far too long, our community has done something like everybody has to care about Big Mama's feelings all the time. And that's annoying because sometimes her feelings are wrong. Sometimes she is concerned about herself. I saw Dane Christopher post some other comments about boys having, getting beat with extension cords and stuff. Yeah, see that now that's the thing, right? That they're still being ruined. They're being spoiled. It's not all about, like, sometimes you can ruin a child by the things you take away from them as well. Secondly, you also mentioned they spoil the boys or themselves. A little bit of both. A little bit of both, because the adult gets attention showered on her because of what she gets for the children. So it's still kind of like a vicarious praise. If she looks a mess, but she spends so much on her kids, people are still praising that like that's a good thing because, hey, she did the best she could. No, the best she could would have been realizing that she's not a man. And you could raise your daughters to grow up to be independent because you don't want them to ever depend on a man because apparently one lied to you, right? But you also need to understand that, okay, you can't raise your son the same way. You can't. They're supposed to be different. And if you raise him and with the same things that you teach your daughter, it's going to be noticeable when he's an adult. Then where are the men going to come from? So you need to recognize that there's some things out of your purview. You can't do it. So find the information. I'm not saying you got to go lay up under some dude and hope he take care of your son, but you at least need to have somebody with whom you have a working understanding of knowledge. They're teaching you what to teach your son.
Right? Exactly. And I think, and this is something in regards to that. Um, I do think that in our community, we need more surrogate fathers and mothers to be there for
Yep.
kids that don't have the proper, particularly in the black community where we know that there's such a crisis with fathers not being in the home. There need to be men to take that, that can somewhat be in them to have a positive impression on these kids. I'm not saying you have to necessarily be the stepfather or try to be the father of the child, but we need men for kids like this that we can spend a valuable amount of time with them in which you lay a positive impression so that the streets and other areas don't make an impression and lead them into the wrong direction.
Exactly. Think of it this way, right? You don't have to be the stepdad. Okay, I get that. But if you don't understand, like I don't know how clearer I can make this. as a man, that let's say you never had kids or you had kids and you raised your kids, right? You are still affected by how those other people raised their children. So if you don't step in so that they see what a man looks like, so that they have something to strive towards, that's when it's going to become your problem in your golden years, because your kids aren't going to be with you 24/7. And yes, they can exact revenge after something happens to you, but that doesn't stop what happened. You just being there, you talking to a child. I don't understand how you could walk down the street, see a child that looks like you, and not want to have a positive conversation with that child. I'm not talking about young adults, because you can't make them do anything. But children are still impressionable and you still have a chance. I have worked with several kids in their teenage years that still remember one little speech taught to them by somebody outside of their family that they're going to use, and they're remembering specifically to take that information with them in their adulthood. It matters. I'm telling you, it matters. I see it every day. Now, meanwhile, we also have another question by Queen of the South. What's the percentage you say of those kids you see in foster care are happier with the new family? Well, here's the thing. I can't give you an answer because I specifically haven't. Maybe D. Durrell has one, but I don't have a percentage because I haven't measured that. But what I will say is that there are kids, a good number of them, that are happier with the foster care family because they recognize that something was wrong with their family. Kids aren't stupid. They do know, and even if they were, they at some point they would recognize that if mama keep doing this behavior and this is what happens after it, why does she keep doing it? Even children who have cognitive delays, extreme, severe, profound development delays, are able to learn through repetition. So, like, a lot of those kids are happier with the foster family because it's calmer. They get to now see and participate in all of the stuff that they saw their friends being able to do, but they couldn't do it. So even if they aren't still with their friends, they know that when they get to the new family, they're able to do the things that their friends were doing. They know what's right and wrong.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna say this. As far as there is a healthy percentage of kids that do realize that they're getting a better situation being with a new family, but unfortunately, no matter for a lot of kids, no matter how badly they're abused, they still have a propensity to still yearn to be
Yeah.
with their real family, and so um I think depending on the age, I don't know if it's fair to kind of decide because some kids are just not mentally capable of understanding, you
Hmm.
know, what's
Yeah.
good or bad from a certain perspective, particularly those that have been somewhat traumatized and so forth. And even though they're traumatized, they still would prefer being with the family or the parents that traumatized them. So it depends on the issue. But I can say that there's a healthy amount of kids that realize that they are um in a better situation. They may not admit it, but they do understand that. But it's kind of difficult, because there are kids that don't understand that really want to be back in the poor conditions that they were because they just want to be with their parent no matter how bad the situation is.
Right. And here's the thing, that's natural, right? There is a bond that happens with your biological parents. There is a tie to them. And so if that can help you guys understand how horrible a family has to be to override something as natural and initial as that bond with your biological parents. So I want y'all to understand what's really out here and why I am passionate about my job the way I am. Also, Dane Christopher, I see your next question, but we're going to answer that. We're going to try to get through some more of these grades so that we can open up the panel if need be. But I'm going to answer that after we get through. We're going to go through B and C, and then I'm going to answer that, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the grade B, right? Let's say that you are a parent. You may not have been excellent, but you did a pretty good job. That is when you have a child that grows up to become a comfortable adult. A comfortable adult may not be the best in their career field, but they can go pretty high. They are secure. They don't ever have to worry about, like, well, within reason. There's no reason to believe that they would have to worry about homelessness, coming back to your couch, minus any life-changing events. This is a kid that you are confident can make it out there. This is a kid that you believe understands and contribute. They may not be the leader of a new movement if we need to have one, but they could at least contribute effectively. This is a kid that this is an adult that you don't have to run behind every day telling them what to do and why to do it, and like what to expect if you follow the rules. This is an adult that is comfortable. So what say you, D. Darrell?
Yes, I agree. I mean, not everybody's going to be excellent. Not everybody's going to be excellent at doing things because we're not perfect, and there's certain things that do. You know, as parents, you're not going to depending on how you work and things that go on personally with you, but being a very good parent also can still yield productive adults, kids that can actually
Mm-hmm.
still, do good things, and yeah, that they're somewhere comfortable and they can maintain and still live a very well-rounded life and so forth and be a great asset to the community. So, um, I feel in our community we don't have enough of that. Excellent or good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
either one you can't really go wrong with, but we need more of both. So that's kind of what I wanted to add in on that one.
And let me put it this way, right? So the difference between getting an A as a parent versus getting a B as a parent, if I have to talk to y'all, in something tangible that you can appreciate, how about after you retire, right? If you were an A parent, your children, and there are exclusions, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show, right? But for the most part, if you were an A parent, your kids have a place for you to come live with them where they can take care of you. They can afford your medications and a lot of the fun stuff that you would like to do in your old age, in addition to the things that you saved to be able to take care of yourself. Right? You're not going to become like the goal is not for you guys to raise kids so that you can become a burden to them in your golden years, right? So that's a plus. That's an A parent. Now, a B parent is one where they may be able to afford all your medications. They can hire help. In addition to the money that you have, but you may not be able to take the expensive, lavish trips. You may not be able to go out for your golden, birthday for your 75th birthday. You can't have like, Vic and Anthony's and stuff. You got to just do normal stuff. Now, let's get. Oh, go ahead, Deidre.
No, go ahead. I'm listening to you. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay, so now let's get into C, right? Now,
Right?
what does C mean on the grading scale that we all grew up with? So, y'all just
Average.
remember it means average. It means passing. And, so it means average. Most people can achieve this. It's nothing special. But hey, guess what? There are a lot of happy people that don't have to worry about doing anything special. And if the time comes along, you're capable, but you are going to need a little bit more guidance. You are not the leader. You're not the middle management. You're the person that shows up and you're good at understanding what you need to do when it's explained to you. You can catch on. You're not developmentally delayed such that you can't help. Anything you want to add to that description? So
Yes,
this would be the
I
average
think I
adult.
think that average is just enough. I mean,
Right.
I try to, and I have taught parenting type skills and so forth, working with the Department of Family Protective Service, and I've never been in a situation in which I try to make average the goal. I'm not. I'm look. I understand certain conditions, certain situations. People are not perfect. Um,
Right.
I don't think that average should be the goal for anything, and I don't promote that. Even though I understand, hey, realistically speaking, average is you know the best that some people can do.
Right.
But I think that most people can be better than average. That's just my opinion. And when I've engaged in parenting type classes and so forth, when I've done those type of services, I want them to be better because it's the reason why you lost your children or you're in this in the
Hmm.
first place. So you lost them or you're in this because you did something that deemed you as being below average from my
Or
perspective.
didn't do something.
Yes, yes. And so my thing is that I want you to get to that good or maybe excellent level. So even though um average is something that does exist a lot, that's not necessarily the goal, you know,
Right. And I want to add on to that, right? So Deidre, okay, I'm gonna pull out the stats class that we had to take, right? You remember the bell curve.
right?
So I'm glad. Like I feel like the way I would explain it is, I want people to strive. I feel like most people can strive to be better than average. But by definition of what average is, 85% out of the 100 that try are going to fall into that average category. So I think that if everybody gives their best, once we put everybody in order, then that's the end of it. Nobody should be berating you and telling you every single day that you're nothing because you're average. No, average is necessary because that lets us know where we are. You can't have excellent and above average if you don't have average. So don't put so much you know, I guess like don't put so much burden on trying to be, to make sure that you're not average. So many people are going to be average, but what matters is if you strove to be higher than average, you aim for the sun, you land among the stars.
Right.
Okay, so now there was another question. Hold on, let me see. How far do we get from the Dane Christopher's question, right? So, Topaz, how do you feel about the negative stereotypes about foster families, that they are molesting and abusing their foster kids? Okay, so how I feel about that is damaging because it never comes from anybody that's willing to be a foster family to make sure that they are lessening that percentage. It's always about somebody that's using it to threaten their children or to make fun of somebody who's been in or is currently in foster care. So I absolutely hate that dumb stereotype. Secondly, nowadays, that might have been true in the past, but because so many of those children in the past suffered, now there's a lot of stipulations, criteria, and training that you have to go through before you get any of that foster care money. And any parent that is trying to foster children sort of just for a check, just to say that they're getting extra income, so that they don't have to ever do anything. First of all, there's responsibilities that parent is required to do before they get that money. Second of all, there's rights that the child being placed in that home gets. And if you have too many kids leaving your foster home for some reason, they will shut you down because now it's licensed and regulated. So
Right.
that is not something that happens a whole lot. Now, has it stopped completely? No. There's always that few group of people that get through on the loophole or whatever, but it is not as pervasive and widespread as it was once. What do you
I
think,
agree,
Gabriel?
and that's something I can actually do a whole lecture on in regards to that. Now, what I will say is this, uh, Topaz, that I've dealt with situations like that where the in the foster care home that was physical or sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I've had I've been doing foster care and type services for the last now going on 11 years, and but I'm gonna say this: most foster care homes that I've seen do an adequate job to good job of taking care of the kids. And then you got
Mm-hmm.
those, I've seen a few that they do an excellent job, but most that
Mm-hmm.
I've seen are more of an A and B. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
some that are C, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had some that were D or F, a D or F or whatever. And
Right.
um, when you have accusations I want you all to also know, and this is, and I don't want to go off to because this could be a whole nother lecture. I want you to also know that yes, part of the reason why some of those foster care families have been stereotyped for that is because their children, particularly I hate to say this, but females in the foster care system are a lot more difficult to keep than males for a
Yep.
variety of reasons. And there are many reasons there. And I have seen this. Matter of fact, I just dealt with something last year in which there are, particularly the teenagers around the ages of about 13 to 16, they make a lot of false accusations. And I'm not saying that that happens the majority of the time, but that does happen a decent amount of times that it's noticeable. And
let me let
go
me let me say this to add on to that, right? So what D Darrell is saying right now is absolutely true. And so here's the thing, right? That's why training is important for people who are going to be foster parents because they will know how to handle that and they will be taught and learn how to not take it personally. It's not always because the kid just wants to keep up trouble. For some kids, it is because they want to keep up trouble because they came from a chaotic background and that's their new normal. They don't know what to do with a lot of peace, and it does become overwhelming for them. And for other children, it's because they are genuinely now interpreting neutral actions towards them as sexual, because all of the sexual abuse in their life, it just so happened to have started with a neutral action towards them. It was grooming. So, this is just par for the course for what happens and why we take abuse for children so seriously. This is why they're in foster care in the first place. So we got to
Right.
provide a corrective environment. So it does happen, but there's ways to handle it. And rest assured, the system, as far as I can tell, has things in place to help both the foster family as well as the kid. And so one of those things is therapy. The foster family goes into therapy with the child for family sessions, in addition to the child having their individual sessions.
Correct. So, but for the most part, I think that most foster care, homes are pretty decent, pretty good
Hmm.
places. From what I've seen over the last, and I've seen a lot of homes, I've seen a lot of kids get placed in different homes all the time. So
Hmm.
I, I,
Yeah,
I
and
think
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't
I
know.
think a
Go ahead.
lot of foster care agencies, they do a decent job of finding decent, good homes for these kids to be in for the most part.
Yeah, and the training. Like I've set in on, because my agency that I work with, right? They actually are a foster care agency as well. So I've set in on some of the trainings that the foster families go through before kids are placed. They have to get licensed, saying that they went through certain mandatory trainings for everybody in
Right.
the state. But my agency offers additional above and beyond trainings. And so far, it's been like, it gives me hope when I sat in the training, is because it lets me know that they are talking to these families about what to expect, helping them practice it, letting them ask questions. And then also there are some foster family support groups. So now this stream isn't all about foster families, but if y'all want us to do a stream on foster care, Deidre, we might be able to do that on your panel. What to expect with foster families, and why Black people need to be more foster families.
Yeah, we may do that. That may be a good topic.
Okay. Okay. So, but yeah, to get it back, let's get back on topic. But yeah, Dane Christopher, it's a lot better than it was. And I think people who say that are still talking about the things that happened when foster care was first a thing. So, okay, now back to the grading system, right? So let's say that you are a D average parent. What is the D average? What does that stand for, right? Mediocre, but acceptable. That's right. You are below average, but we're willing to tolerate how below average you are. It is mediocre at best. You did the bare minimum that you could get away with. These are your parents who you would see. I gotta house you for 18 years, but on the day of your 18th birthday, you got to get out if you ain't bringing in no money. That What does that do? That creates mediocre citizens. This is where you get the attitude where you hear people say, "Well, nobody ever gave me nothing in life, so you just need to get out there and do what you need to do. You got to get out of my house at 18. I've been on my own." The women, the people, and I say women because what comes to my mind was an argument I had, very heated, spirited argument with a woman. But the adults that you hear that say, "I've been on my own since I was 16," and first of all, congrats that you survived, but that's not something you should want to keep perpetuating. You should feel slighted because one, it's illegal, and then two, now you're doing this to your children and you know what you had to go through. But you can't, like, this is the person that when something bad was done to them in their childhood, they can't think of a different way to not perpetuate that on to the next generation. The sheep of the community. These are the people that are keeping up all of the things that were wrong with the way that we were raised. You're supposed to build on and be better. And you owe that to your parents. You don't owe them to give them the same thing. It's like somebody asks you, "Hey, I'm gonna invest $500 with you for your business opportunity." A year later, when they looking for their dividends, you give them back their same $500 with nothing to spare, like with nothing to add to it. What were you doing all of this time? It's a person that sleeps in class and guesses on a scantron and gets by. So, what do you think, Deidre?
I agree. Below average. It's adequate, just enough. To be honest with you, in our community, there are people who deem the D type parent as exceptional.
Right.
You got people
Yes.
bragging that, well, I pay the bills, I feed my kids, I clothe them. You know,
Duh, you supposed to.
like
Who else
you
gonna cook
supposed to
it?
already do that. That's
Right.
minimum.
Like you want a cookie, I don't care. Like you supposed to do that. See, here's the thing. When you lay down and have sex with somebody, you need to understand that this would be 18 years. Even if you get lucky and you don't get pregnant or get the other person pregnant, this would be 18 years, all right, of taking care of kids at minimum. Because a good parent is not going to kick their kid out on their 18th birthday.
Right. But
Well,
yeah,
I'm not, oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Deidre.
Yeah, what I wanted to say was the bare, you bragging about the bare minimum. Like, but my thing is this: these are things that you're supposed to be doing, and and there's so much more than just doing the bare minimum. I mean, that where's the attention that needs to where's the extra things that this child's supposed to be learning, the value system, the ability of this child to thrive. Forget the
Exactly.
survival. I'm looking at how well that child can thrive.
And that's the word that I was getting ready to use is thrive, right? So if you are a D parent, a D average parent, you are surviving. You're scratching and saving. Okay, good times. That's where you are. And no, and here's the thing. I'm not telling you that you need to berate D average parents. Some parents can't do anything more than that. But what makes you even still higher than the D parent, because like a lot of people like to think about it as money. No. As you're doing all of these things and you're struggling and your kid is seeing how hard it is for you to survive, you're teaching your child what they need to do. You're teaching them where they need to go look so that they don't end up in that predicament. You now you have like the best thing available, in my opinion, is you have real world life experiences that you can show your child that what you're telling them to do is going to work. Like you have them right there in the trenches. You're giving them a real version of what to avoid, what's not fun. But don't try. See, in our culture, we praise the D parent as if they were an A parent because it is less work. It means then these are the parents that just send their kids to the room when gossip is afoot, because they want to do that instead of helping their kids with their homework. So if you want to do that, our culture has told us that we have to say that that's good and that everything outside of us is keeping us from being able to do anything extra. And that's just not true. And what you're doing when you tell children that is keeping them in the land of not being grounded in reality. You're keeping them in the land of delusion. You need to be honest and tell your children that you're just an ancient parent. You didn't care.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so let's get to the last one, and we're gonna open up the panel, right? So,
Cool.
the F parent, right? This is failing, failure. You lose, okay? You did nothing to help your child be anything other than a burden on society. And since you didn't do your job, now my tax dollars, now my time and attention has to go to correct the things that you did wrong. So these are going to be the people, right? That is in here and don't get me wrong when I say this. These are people that do nothing more than live off of basic welfare programs in society, and they never have a dream or goal of getting off. Let me explain something to y'all. When I was in college, I did use a lot of the benefit programs. Okay, and I'm not sorry. That was extra money, and oh well, y'all wasn't paying my bills. Here's the thing. I didn't like look,
you,
and I'm so
you're
serious. Like if y'all want to give me money, pay me how much they paid me, and then I'll be shamed. Okay. So otherwise, it was not fun going into those offices every 3 months with somebody looking down their nose at you. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but you 30 and got a government job. Leave me alone. I'm 19 and I'm in college. If you don't like, I still got time and I might even still make more money than you. So pick your head up a little bit. Okay. Watch how you handle me. But I didn't. I behaved myself. So here's the thing. You have raised a child that for everything that they do, is going to be draining or taking something away from somewhere else and they do not add anything back. This is what my view is, right? I did use those benefit programs, but now with my job and the business that I'm starting, I'm adding back into those benefit programs so that the next college student can get on their feet and they can survive. Secondly, I had respect for myself to where I knew that wasn't going to be my life goal, answering to somebody every 3 months while I have to make myself more increasingly and increasingly retarded sounding because they ask you why you haven't gotten a job. Why are you still dependent? And you have to make a case about why you still, with all the additional time, have yet to be able to get off of assistance. So you have to make yourself sound worse and worse and worse every time you go in there, because you have to justify why you can't do it until they eventually just put you on disability and get you out their caseload altogether. So this is a person that's going to be passed around. It's like a whole paperweight, adds nothing but takes everything. So what do you think, D. Real?
I'm gonna say that I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, but I want you to understand with this is what you're saying is the truth. But in our community, there's a large percentage of people that will give you pushback on the grading for what they consider F with people who engage in what you're saying right now. I just want you to
I
understand.
know
I know you understand it, and people there, but there are a lot of people in our community will be like, just because I get this don't mean I'm a bad parent. And
it
even though
doesn't.
even hold on, but listen, let me say this. Even though you raised your child on this for the last 10, 15 years, which is supposed to be a temporary entitlement or temporary entitlement, okay? But there are
Mm-hmm.
people in our community that feel that they are entitled to this benefit as from the time their child is born to the time they make 18, 21 years old.
And here's the thing, D. Darrell. All my life I had to fight. I'm used to it. Oh well, right? Because they gonna be all right, and I don't care. Now, let me ask you, as a fellow therapist, right? And here's the thing. That's just one example. Dane Christopher, his previous comment is another example of an F parent. We're gonna get to that in a second. But let me ask you, right? So, isn't it a little bit delusional and out of touch with reality for a parent to feel like they are owed a assistant program when they have literally done zero things to pay into that, right? So this would be the person who maybe they grew up on assistance their entire life. Their parent was supposed to be teaching them that somebody is paying for that assistance, that the community cared enough, or whoever they want to say cared enough to create that program, so that since mom and dad can't get it together right now, you are still able to survive. Compare it to before those programs existed, where if mom and dad couldn't get it together, you starved to death. So they're supposed to be teaching their children that that's not something that's just owed to them. So the parents failed. And then two, this is a person that is delusional because they grew up in poverty and on assistance, and they're thinking that this is fun. They want to recreate that. They want to keep standing that. They want to do that some more in their adulthood and do it to their children too. Or do they want to get out of there and do whatever it is that they can to at least make an honest living where nobody has handed them anything, so that way nobody can't take nothing away from them?
Unfortunately, when that mindset is ingrained in your culture, you're going to teach your
Mm-hmm.
children to be complacent, to want to do the same thing because unfortunately, a child is going that grew up in that will realize, hey, well, if she did it, and I guess we're functional, we're not thriving again. We're using that word thriving or becoming successful. But hey,
Yeah,
we
and black
good.
people act like it's a sin to want to thrive. You know, like you
Yes,
ever got
yes,
pushback for wanting to achieve anything? Like you want too much, just be content. Why you need all that?
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. Complacency with mediocrity or below mediocrity. And how dare you to want a great life, a good life. And see, to
right,
me, the essence of this is the fact that there's a large percentage of people who fall into that F category who have not even gave a decent try to be successful. They didn't even give it a decent attempt.
right.
So, and
And
to me, just giving a decent attempt to be better would actually yield better outcomes than being lazy or complacent in having the bare minimum. And
right,
let's look at it like this. And like you said, you went through things and you had to do this. And you realized the process. And I've worked in community mental health, having to help people get resources. They're not giving you a hell of a whole lot. And I don't understand
right.
how you like this money, this little change that they're giving you. To me, I don't see how people do it.
Yeah, but and then you have to understand what it is that you're going to be relegated to live in. And I also want y'all to keep in mind, right? That question, I feel like you need to remember that we're grading the parents. So in the example that I was talking about, the person who gets the F is the parent that raised the child on assistance all those years and did not teach the child that this is not fun. This is not okay. See, our culture tells our kids not to question the parents, and that whatever the parents were doing, it's what you're supposed to strive to. It's the greatest. We're not even telling the kids that what the parents were doing was acceptable, tolerable, understood. We're telling them that you are beneath your parents unless you do exactly as they did. See, that's more delusion. That's more things that get in the way of us having a clear thought process. That's why we have so many misunderstandings and so much conflict and chaos in our culture, is because we're not grounded in reality overall as a whole. And then we get mad at the people who actually try to say, hey, listen, this is what they meant. This is the point of that. So we're grading that parent that raised the child that says, hey, assistance is the way of life, the first one. Because see, the child won't know any better unless somebody else, if the parent didn't do it, either their teachers, somebody in the neighborhood, anybody, every adult that passed that child by and didn't talk to them about how this is not, a way of life that's sustainable, did a disservice. And yes, sometimes you are placed in a room with a child because you're supposed to talk to them about something that could be helpful. You're put in certain situations to help sometimes. Okay, that's
Right.
sometimes how you can pay back your karma. So yes, it is a community failure. So we're grading the parent that didn't teach the child that, not the child that grew up and felt like, oh, I want to look up to my parents. That's natural. That's what all kids do.
Right. Exactly. So, and that's what I'm saying. That there's a percentage, that would give pushback to that at using that measurement stick, using that parameter of what failure is. There are people who feel like I did the best I can, but you ain't working 10 years, and this was your only source of income. There
Right.
there
And
are people.
hold on real quick, Deidre. I want to give a shout out to Kenny Conjo. Thank you so much for the Cash App for content support. Okay, go ahead, Deidre.
There are people who feel that they're entitled to things. There are
Yep.
people who feel like, and to be honest with you, this is the thing that I had to bring to the reality of some of these people that are at that F rating or grade. These are some of the most skillful people that I ever seen at gaming the system in my life. They
Mm-hmm.
know where every resource is. They know how to get it. All of the intelligence that they put to maintain these resources, they could apply that to a field of study and be just as successful. And that is the one of the most frustrating. They know every federal state resource. They know how to apply it. They know how to effectively fill out the damn paperwork. They know how to present themselves. They know how
Exactly.
to, they are great at knowing how to navigate these agencies and to manipulate to get these resources, but they would never use that tactfulness that they develop to apply that to a field of study, a business, or a certain field, or etc. That to me is,
And you
is
know why that
very
is, Deidre, though, right? Have you, as a therapist, come to a conclusion? Because I'll tell you mine.
the conclusion why they do that.
Yeah, why can they game the system so thoroughly and intellectually, but not do that in other areas of the world where they wouldn't have to worry about assistance? What
I,
do you
I,
think?
I actually feel that it's a self-esteem and it's a lack of knowledge because they have minimized their own capability to think that they can even accomplish more than what they see in their environment.
Right. Well, I have two working theories. One is more about the fact that they do use that information and they happen to be trapped in the area that they are by, for whatever reason. And what's valuable in that area where they are is that type of information. The second working theory is the fact that they've kind of given up hope on leaving. And they've been told all their life that anything outside of there is wrong. So it's like the thought process that this is the information that actually matters. You got your head in the clouds if you think you're gonna ever leave here. So they're still smart, they're still capable, they're still observant, and so they use it in the environment where they are. So those are my
Right.
two working theories. I mean, and it's just a theory because it's so many different reasons why certain things happen. So I did want to let you guys know that the panel is now open because we have finished the grading system, but we have a few more different topics, right? The next thing is the barriers. What stops people from being able to be excellent and above average and even comfortable parents? What makes D and F parents? What stops us from getting from the D and F parenting that we might have received to get to A, B, or C? And it's four things
Um.
that I have listed: is laziness, trauma, willful defiance, and distractions.
Damn.
What
Well,
do you
that
think?
that kind of covers a lot of what I was gonna say.
Well, we didn't talk about them
Oh,
in depth, right?
another thing that I can add on to that is
Mm-hmm.
I also think that structural racism has something to do with that, and
Okay.
also the fact that in our culture we glamorize um um low level behavior and so forth, particularly in hip hop and things of that sort. We glamorize the fact, how many songs have you heard, you know like that reference the fact that they're receiving or entitled to these type of benefits, and it's just a way
Right.
of life, and they're proud of it. I mean,
Right.
look at, remember Cash Money, and they had, I put everything in my mama name, I got this and that, and I get,
Yep.
this type of benefit and that type of benefit, and you know I remember Bone Thugs and Harmony, it's the first of the month. you
Yep.
know these are all things that glamorize, you know that type of behavior. It's ingrained in black culture, unfortunately, and it's glamorized as if, okay, this is what we do. This is actually the black experience, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who think because you're black, this is the experience you have to experience.
Exactly. Like, why do we need to be all the same? I want my culture to understand that, first of all, we are a culture that is based on variety and diversity. None of us look the same, right? Even before intermingling with other races, we still have variety of skin tone. It may have been dark or brown, but it wasn't all the same shade. Like, that's just who we are. That's who we were meant to be here for. We're not supposed to have this boring beige lifestyle. So is everything have to be the same? No, we're not a monolith. Like, we need one of everything. And then how about the fact that that's how the universe works? If for any something, for any system to work, or even any subsystems, it has to have one of everything that is necessary. Everybody can't do the same thing.
Right. Exactly. And we're not a monolith, and we never will be. And no group of people is a monolith. No
Right.
group of people, that's impossible for everybody to think the same, act the same, and do the same thing. That's just not. But when it comes to this thing of blackness, we have this thing of thinking that this is what blackness is, but it's never. The thing that I hate about it is that it's never grounded in success. It's
Mm-hmm.
never grounded in intelligence, success, pride, things that actually um, exemplify the greatness of it. It's usually embodied by failure, misery, poverty. I had to overcome mountains of
Right.
hurdles just to get where I need to get. Just to be, it's embodied by struggle. And to me,
Right.
blackness does not have to be defined by struggle.
Right. Yeah, I always say that that's a period of our black history, of our black existence, right? That's not the whole thing. We existed before and we still exist afterwards. So what I think, like, you know what, let's go down this list, right? So let's deal with the one you mentioned first, structural racism. There is no doubt that there are different things, there are laws still on the books today that are set up to ensure that black people will forever be disillusioned, dispersed, dysfunctional. And why? Because as long as we do that, then we buy into whatever the product is that they're telling us that we now need. something to help us try to become like them, something we'll never be, and shouldn't even want. So, like, they put a lot of money into the media to capture your attention and keep it. A lot of things. I was watching Amistad last month, right? I
Right.
decided in February I was gonna watch a bunch of Black History movies, right? And so I was just thinking to myself, like, there are a lot of people that got caught up on things that they didn't do. And once they're in the system, the racism tells anybody else that, oh, this person isn't worthy of help. If they didn't do anything, they would have done something. If we didn't catch them, they were doing something and we just don't know about. And so that starts their life off to where now they're at a disadvantage on purpose. So, yes, that is a real reason. That is a real thing, a real barrier. And understanding that doesn't mean that we're condoning it. It just means that we now know where that person is coming from. We understand how to help. I've never told anybody that you have to give over your whole life to somebody that has a criminal history. But what I did say is you have to understand that that was by design. So if you truly want to help that person and thereby help yourself, because do we really want to be known as a culture that's always locked up? Right? That's not fun. Even, especially when you got a degree and you're doing what you're supposed to do and you don't have any criminal history, you still get looked at as one. So if you want to help this person and also help yourself, all that knowing that they have a criminal history and that they were innocent, or either maybe they did it and they didn't know any better, all that means doesn't mean that you put them above you, doesn't mean you give them everything. It just means now you know how to help them. You know where to start. That's it. That's all it says. What do you think, Deidre?
I agree. I agree. It's the mindset. What you're speaking on is the mindset of changing the standard of how your image is, and your image is stereotyped for the negative, not for the positive. And the thing about it, it greatly affects those who don't necessarily fit into that box, who are actually doing things to progress our race as a whole, but they're still deemed and looked upon in a certain way, being underestimated and so forth, marginalized and minimized because of what people think the majority of us act and behave like, and so forth, or stereotyped as. So I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying.
And let me also shout out another cash app from John. I'm sorry. Let me see. I don't want to say this person's name out loud. If it's okay for me to do so, just type in the chat. You can say it was you. But thank you so much for the cash app. I really appreciate it. And everything that you guys cash out me is going into my ability to make a better show for y'all. So thank you so much for appreciating and listening and participating. Okay, Deidre, did you have anything else you want to add about the structural racism part?
The structural racism aspect of it, I do think, like you said, there are things that are on the books, there are certain laws, there are certain things that are done to keep us at a certain level. But even though that's the case, I was raised never to let racism be a reason for failure.
Right,
And so I think that regardless of that, we have to accept that this is the card that we have been given. I'm not saying it's fair, but that don't mean that I'm still supposed to fail just because of that.
right,
I have to learn to overcome it to a point where I can minimize it. And if
right,
I sit there and complain, and that's the problem, one of the biggest things for us as a people is that we are not fighting structural racism hard enough.
right.
You know,
Exactly.
so
And a
so
lot of
that
people want to deny that it exists. It absolutely exists.
yeah, the denial in itself shows the miseducation of the
Yep.
Negro, and that to me is also, again, that's a structural race problem, because the very fact that you deny something that we all know exists is evidence that it still exists.
Exactly. Because there's somebody teaching you that, hey, I'm doing this to them because of reasons.
Exactly,
Okay. Now,
exactly. So
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that's correct. Structural racism exists in every facet of government, from local government on up to state and then federal. It exists.
And here with the advent of social media, I don't see how America can still deny it because lots of people are, now here's the thing. I don't care about the person that exposes the racist, right? I don't care whether they did it for their own purpose, like they got mad at the person and they knew and they're just now telling us. I don't care if they did it, I would appreciate it more. I would reward it more if they did it for their own moral compass. The answer is we still got the information. So there are people literally out here putting out proof for you to know that these people have racist mindsets and agendas. We can't deny it anymore. You can't be an ostrich and bury your head in the sand anymore. Now, like at this point, you're just running away from information that could be helpful. And that is fear and indoctrination. So, like let's bring up the next one, right? How about willful defiance? Because to me, there is a certain subset of parents who feel like they are not going to do any better job of parenting, no matter what I say to them, will be the benefit. And one of the things that I think that those parents that I've come across have in common is the fact that it's selfishness. I got to spend more money to be a better parent. Well, technically, you don't. Not if you understand how to teach your child. Not if you're resourceful and you can put together the same lesson using things that you can find around the house. If you're creative, you just got to think more. The less money you have, the more you have to think. Okay. How about the parents that feel like, well, it's cutting into my personal time? Well, once you
Well,
have a
you lose that
child,
when you have a
first of all,
child.
personal time got you a kid, and then and then once you have a child, that is put on hold. If you parenting is labor intensive, you do the most work up front, and then you have to do the least work on the back end, or vice versa. What do you got, D. Darrell?
No, I was gonna say. I mean, once you have a child, you give up that the personal time is over.
Yeah, yeah.
That ain't no more personal time. It's the time you have after you taking care of the things with the child, and that's just what you have to swallow that pill and be okay with it.
Exactly. And a lot of black adults that I have, like, that I see interacting in the world operate like teenagers. They still feel like that, they shouldn't be expected to have to sacrifice, that life should never have to be hard for them. And I'm thinking to myself, is like, that's part of life. There are going to be times where things are hard just because that's what life and existence is. The point is, can you overcome it quickly? Can you save up enough resources so that you can bounce back from something without having to lose a whole lot, without having to be uncomfortable? You know, if you're uncomfortable, point blank, you ran out of resources. Either plan better, stack better, or bite it and move through it. Those are your options. I don't have another secret option.
Right? Exactly. It's just that's the reality that you created for yourself. Take responsibility for it. Make the best of it.
And I do want to say, I'm like, when I say take responsibility for it and make the best of it, that's not a reprimand. Even though I know sometimes I come off like I'm reprimanding
That's
people,
that's
that's
the
not a
truth.
reprimand.
That's
That's
not
just
that's the damn that's the truth. You
Exactly.
know,
That's just
you
advice. That's me telling you what's going to help. I'm not yelling at you. I don't put shame or, a value system on, telling you, hey, well, you just got to like get over it and work through it. Right. And matter of fact, if I know you well enough, I'll probably even be there to help you get through it. The point is, you can't wallow. I'm not reprimanding or coming down on anybody. I'm not forgetting that we're humans. Because, these are the pushback that you mentioned that I've gotten in the past. Right. So, like, that's not a reprimand. That is me telling you, like, that's the answer. That's what's going to help you get better.
right. Exactly. I mean, it's all about self responsibility. You have to take responsibility for things. Self accountability, taking care of things that no one else should take care of. You created that, so you have to take responsibility of what you created. I mean, I was, I also had a child when I was young too. I was 20 in college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we end up getting married, but at the same time, um, you know, I shouldn't have had a child at 20 years old. you know,
Yep.
I was a junior in college. I was. I mean, I'm on my path to be successful, but I wasn't there yet. I mean, I'm lucky I had a great support system with my family and my parents and so forth that helped me substantially throughout college, and they also my mom particularly provided support for me, with my daughter, my first child. And because they knew that I had goals and things I
Bless
wanted to
you.
do. Excuse me, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you do get support, but at the same time, they didn't have to do that. And nor
Absolutely.
and I didn't have and be honest with you, I understand even though they did do it, um, I stepped up my game by having to work full time while going to college. And that was something that I at first working was a luxury for me. And really my parents didn't even want me to work. And I really didn't want to work. But once I had a child, I felt like, hey, I had to work because if something is needed, I should be the person that provides that, not me, asking, my parents or whatever to do whatever, because they were more like, even though you have a child, you still need to focus on school because,
Right.
you focusing on school will actually benefit your child down the line. So stay on your grind. Don't worry about the money and all this other stuff. But I was like, I mean, I'm not worrying about money like just to just blow off, but I also feel like if there are necessity and things that need to be that my child needs, I need to be there to provide for that and not anybody else. And that's what I did, you know.
Well, indeed, Darrell, let me ask you, do you ever see this, right? There's two sides that spite comes in, right? I've seen the teenagers that once they get pregnant or get somebody pregnant, they feel like out of spite, their parents, well, you should have been watching me. Well, we didn't have this. I ain't have no choice, blah, blah, blah. And they feel like the adults owe them. And then on the flip side, right? I'm proud of your mom who said that, yes, you do need to be responsible, but I'm going to reward the fact that you're at least getting a job and thinking along the right lines by helping you and making sure that you still are able to go to school. Because I've seen some parents be like, well, guess you got to drop out now because I
Yep,
ain't going to do it.
exactly. And that to me is to me that is tragic that you don't even think about the long term outcome. And you don't even think about the long term outcome of that by you not still providing that support. You know,
Right.
and to me that's a lot of the thinking. There are a lot of people that have that sentiment towards their children, creating those mistakes. And we have to understand these are young people doing this. This is not somebody 30 years old making this mistake. A 21 year old, 19-year old, you mean they should not be given to the wolves like that on account of a mistake, particularly if you have the ability
Exactly.
to make things easier for them. Now, if this was a 27, 28, that'd be different. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now you're at a place in your life where you're approaching the latter end of your 20s, early approaching 30. No, but for
And
someone
even then, I kick the 27-year-old out and keep the baby. Like the baby gonna have somewhere to sleep and something to eat. Your grown ass is on your own.
yeah,
Like
but
I've seen
listen,
parents that kick both out, like the
yeah,
person
but
and the baby.
hold on. But Topaz, you kick them out, keep the baby. You're doing them a favor. For some,
I
they'll look
know,
at
but
that.
I'm doing also the biggest favor for that baby because this is a person that don't make life go now. And also, let me say this, right? My kids ain't they know like they got a cool till they 25, and the reason is because once they turn 18, I'm gonna still take care of you because even though I'm not legally required to, you get to go off and you get to feel like you free, and I
Right,
get to see what you're gonna do. And so I don't tell my kids that. I've never given them like a contract, but I know within me, I'm gonna wait until they're in their late 20s before I just release everything. And even then, they can always still come to me if they need it, as long as it's reasonable. So I feel like at 27 and you still stand at home and you don't got nothing, that would never be me as a parent in the first place to be me as a grandparent. But if I just so happen to find myself in that predicament, oh yeah, the 27-year-old got to go. And I like the kids, I'm straight. The kids will be straight, but everyone that raised in my house is gonna realize you was out there fucking up, and you are gonna have to answer for that. So I'm doing them
right,
a favor initially, but when they decide that they want to come back and get in the kid's life, they're gonna still have to answer. They may not have to answer to me, but they're gonna have to answer to their child because I'm gonna instill it in them.
right. I hear you. I wholeheartedly
I thought
agree.
about all of this, D. Darrell. I like that's what I do.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, see, and like this with Professor Black Ops, he said, "Shout out to his mom for help for support with his son. Rest in peace." Then he said he thought about dropping out, but his mom was like, "Wrong answer." Yeah, because guess what? Even like, let's say the child, like, first of all, we know how teenagers are. Their hormones rising or whatever. My question is, for teenagers to get pregnant, what the fuck was the adults? Okay, but we're gonna table that, right? The kids, the teenagers got pregnant. So now there's a baby getting ready to come here. And so to make the children drop out because of that would be rewarding bad behavior, because now they don't have to go to school, because obviously they were skipping or not caring about school in the first place. Now I'm gonna make sure that they get more involved in school. Like, that's the dropping out is gonna be the opposite of what's gonna happen next.
Right. Right.
That doesn't
Exactly.
help the child either. That doesn't help the child that's on the way. That doesn't help the one that got pregnant or got somebody pregnant. It don't help me. It don't help society. It helps no one.
Nope. It's just basically you're not going to be able long term. I'm looking at it from a long term perspective. You dropping out hinders your ability long term to take care of your child to the best of your ability.
Exactly. And think about it this way. To me, in my opinion, that's a parent that is very short sighted. Because, yeah, that might be your initial response. I get that. I completely understand it. I'm not telling parents to have no emotion. What I am saying is parents need to handle their emotion. Don't make that the child problem, and make sure you respond with a wise mind, a balance between logic and emotion. That should be your response and what you teach your children to do. So, this making the child drop out is you in anger at that moment trying to teach your kid a lesson, and you end up messing over the child, which is your grandkid, the one that got pregnant, which is your child, as well as yourself and the community, all because you wanted to prove a point.
Right.
And I want to welcome Professor Black's Ops to the panel.
Yeah, I just kind of tell my story. Like D. Darrell, I had my son super early. Then like it was weird. Like my mom was just always tuned. Every time I was gonna do some crazy stuff, she was like, "Nah, we ain't doing that. That's a bad decision." So
I like how she said we ain't doing that.
yeah. So like I took my son when he was 5. So as y'all would say, I was on some fuckboy shit. So I was like, I'm gonna make her pay child support. My mom looked at me. She goes, "Man, I've been in this family. Don't do that. So you need to go sit your ass back down. That's not what we do in this family." So she was just always giving me great guidance.
Yep.
Every time I
Yeah,
do
she was
something
still
crazy,
involved. She was
oh
still
yeah,
involved. She was still giving you guidance, but it sounds like it was more from like, you know, um, a management position. She wasn't in your day to day
oh
life
yeah,
managing every single thing. Like, you still had to be an adult
oh yeah.
24/7. And then if she saw something that was out of line, she just corrected you.
Yeah, she was just giving me guidance. She's like, you need to be a man, but when you get off tilter, I'm gonna tell you when you need to go. Like my 20s, she would order me from 25 to 30 was guidance. 30, she's like, you're a grown man. I'm just gonna tell you, give you some advice, and you're gonna make your own decision. So she just kind of eased me into that. So
Hold
then
on,
when
y'all. Shout out to Brandon L, my number one hater, for the Cash App, supporting the channel, supporting good content for once. No, I'm just messing around. All right,
nah, I
y'all, go
was
ahead.
so yeah, so that's why I try to tell people like D. Darrell, you saying is now my son is grown with his kids, so I just try to give him guidance, reach in my pocket. Because when I was younger, I was like, yeah, 18, I'm gonna kick you out. But when I got a little older, I'm like, that shit sounds stupid, man. You ain't gonna never get ahead if you be kicking your kids out at 18. They ain't gonna never catch up in life.
Yeah, we got to understand it as a culture. We can't afford to do that. Like, I've heard some parents who genuinely meant well when they say that, right? Like, they're saying they don't want to create dependent children and that the kids got to fly the nest, and, like, you have a duty to kick them out. And they really believe that. But what I'm saying is, I'm telling you, what happens is they either end up in the grave, in jail, or in my office. And you better hope it's in my office. So what
Yeah,
I'm saying is, people are not ready at age 20. We're just
no.
not mentally ready to be on our own at age 20. Okay. In the past, where they used to happen, life expectancy was like 50. Now that we live into our 80s, we got time to slow this down and enjoy the fruits of the labor that got us to a place where we have a longer life expectancy. You still trying to operate on something that don't fit for today. It's not necessary. And also, parenting is forever. You're never gonna not be this kid's parent. So you got all the time in the world. You don't have to kick them out at 18. 18 is an arbitrary number that the government just decided to pick. I have been looking for years to figure out why they picked 18. What was the rationale behind that? They just picked a number.
And two is like as far as black wealth, I be, debating some of my white friends, and I said most white families have in-life transfers. Their kid get at turn 18, they get a car. Most black
Yeah.
kids, you gotta work to get a car, so there go your money. Like one of my friends, his dad made so much money, he gave $20,000 to buy a house. I'm like, my mom had $20,000 for me to get a house. I had to grind and get it, but those in-life transfers help you, to get all those humps. So you kicking the kid out at 18 instead of giving him in-life transfers, you're giving him in-life expenses.
Let's be real. Our kids at 18 don't get a car. They get a $10,000 light bill that's been in their name since they was 3.
Facts.
And now they have to overcome that. So we as a culture are gonna have to pick one, you know. We can't say that like it's worse. Tell me what order y'all would put this in. 1, being handed like stocks, passive income companies, trust funds, inheritance, blah, blah, blah. 2, being handed a stack of debt because of credit card bills, light bills, cable bills, phone bills, car insurance, all in your name that you got to now overcome, because I've had clients in their 20s that were really depressed because they starting off life at a deficit. Or either number 3, you don't give them either one, but you tell them where the nearest homeless shelter is and a bag of the stuff that you're allowing them to take from your house. What order of importance would y'all put that in for what is helpful?
You put it in order already. You put it in order already. you ready? But the thing about it is the black people getting A, it's gotta be what, 2%, 3%?
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be a big number.
Right. I mean, because my thing is that I'm in this club of helping my kids over and above. I got 2 adult kids, and I had one daughter I gave 2 vehicles to, and she messed them both up. I kind of spoiled I spoil my girls, but I don't spoil my son. But I put them in a position to win at the same time, and that comes with them working and doing things towards trying to do something. So the purpose was to help them do things so they can have transportation to go to school, work, and things of that sort. It just wasn't given just for the fact of giving. That was actually expectations behind that. So
yeah, so I'm trying to follow your lead. My son, he what, 33. I'm old, so he's trying to move to Vegas. So I said, when you move to Vegas, get your credit right. You be a first time home buyer. I'm gonna buy a fourplex. He's gonna split the profits. You're gonna run it. In a year, we can take those profits. You can get your own house. Then we can split the fourplex's revenue.
See, you are teaching him. You know what? I was on another panel earlier today, or maybe a couple of days ago. They were talking about like what should we hand our kids when we pass away, right? Like they were talking about inheritance and how whether or not it's whether it's used appropriately, why about a 3rd generation the wealth is gone. If you build wealth, your kids are gonna squander it, right? And so my thing is, like I've said for reparations, I don't think reparations should be a check. I think it should be free health care as much as you need or want. Yes, there are going to be people that go to the doctor all the time. Get over it. You did this to us. Okay, that's part of your karma. It should be free higher education, so that way you can get as much education and knowledge as you want. And in order for you to see any benefit from your reparations, would be for you to put in the work and actually do something with that education. Here's my thoughts on inheritance, right? If I were to have an empire that I'm leaving to my kids in my death, it's not going to be a cash settlement. What it's going to be is a trust with stipulations saying that they need to start building, and like the money that they get, it needs to be being used to increase the empire, or else you don't get any more checks, right? You got 1 year to at least come up with a good business plan to get your head in the game. You know, I would have like the lawyers, whoever's over the trust fund, or whoever's over the estate. I would have them to set out like the 1, 5, 10-year goal. There's going to be morality clauses. There's going to be a whole bunch of shit now, right?
Morality.
And then second of all, or if you don't want to go through all of that, then you put the money in the name of a corporation that is not easily dissolved. Just like the person, in order to dissolve it, it has to be a real financial business reason to dissolve it. So that way, if they don't want to do nothing with their life, they at least getting passive income, but it ain't all spread out at once.
No, facts. I've been thinking about that too, because a friend of mine, she's an attorney, so she's talking about trust and how to set them up. Then how do you, because you can get so much money a quarter. You know, there's different ways to set up how the funding gets pushed out to the heirs of the trust. So
right.
But I got one question. I'm shouting out to Bitcoin L, who just we can't be counting his pockets, Topaz. If Bitcoin want to throw it all up in the air, you gotta let Bitcoin do him.
Listen,
you can't be
Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
Whatever. Look, He better be glad he's my YouTube little brother. Because if he was my little brother in real life, my family know I'm controlling. I would be like, nigga, what are you doing? Are you paying
Shout out to
strippers?
Bitcoin L. Shout
I
out
would
to
be
Bitcoin
slapping him
L.
in the back of the neck all of the time. Put that money up. You better not pay that bitch no money.
Don't be counting Bitcoin L's pockets, but
Yes, I'm gonna count him. Now I can't do it in real life, but if
I
he was
feel
like
you.
my blood brother, hell yeah, absolutely. I absolutely
Nah.
would be counting that nigga pockets. Because if you ain't counting them right, then I'm gonna count it right.
Yeah, I was joking with my son. I'm like, man, I'm gonna leave you these $50 I'm gonna accumulate before I die. You're gonna just waste all the money. I'm gonna leave them to your kids. I don't even trust you, son. I'm gonna leave it to the grandkids. I'm
To
skipping
be
over you, son.
To be honest with you, my grandmother did not give my mother the information for the land and stuff because she knew that she was gonna to like she like my mother. She just kind of like she's one of these selfish parents that I talk about. If y'all want to know where my passion come from, that's what happens. You know, like I didn't have the best guidance, and I had to find everything out on my own. Just so happens I was like, I'm glad God blessed me to be a curious child and enjoy learning and reading and paying attention to stuff. Because if I wasn't, God help me, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, my grandmother did not tell her. She went to her grave and did not tell her nothing. And my mother, after my grandmother's death, had to go around to the rest of the family asking them about the land, about the plots, the insurance, or whatever. And she was pissed off, but she had to go and at least still humble herself before the rest of the elders. And I'm gonna tell you, ever since the last elder died, my great aunt, she been out of pocket and abnormal ever since.
Oh wow, no, I'm with you. So that's my thing. Like you saying is, even if you secure the bag, you don't teach your kids how to keep the bag, so they end up wasting it. So I've been trying to talk to my son about real estate, and as he gets older, because he wants to flip and just get a big load of money, I'm like, why can't we get some rental stuff so we can have passive income forever? You can't
Because they
flip
don't understand
forever.
how money works. And here's the thing, right? Like I would not this is if you're teaching your child about how money works and how to use it, they know what to do. But you got to also foster in that child the desire to want to have passive income. You got to foster into them not to feel like the chaotic life is fun and exciting. You got to teach
My,
that child to want
my
to have
son
peace
got a
and
chaotic,
tranquility.
yeah, my son got a chaotic life, so I think that's where he gets it from. So I'm like, dude, just slow down. Just think of a 10-year plan. Oh, that's too long. I'm
Hmm.
like, dude, 10 years go by quick in your life, man. I feel like I was just in high school. Hell, I'm old as hell now, man.
Hmm. Yeah, and here's the thing, right? 10 years go by fast, but there's a lot of, for whatever reason, our people no longer feel like they're gonna live past age 25. And that ain't true if you don't do nothing crazy or are stupid. Yeah, so teach your kids to be like me and Khadijah, then you'll be happy.
Facts, facts.
Y'all got it. I'm gonna go on mute because I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to mute.
I've been talking with you. I'm gonna let D Darrell get in Life Solutions. I've been jumped on the panel talking straight.
Well, I do think that we do need to, as a people, have a mindset of legacy and passing assets from one generation to another. And that's one of the things that's not done a whole lot in the Black community. Usually, somebody dying, you accumulate debt, or you and so forth. That I mean, one of the saddest things I hate to see is when somebody dies and people are doing GoFundmes.
Oh man, that makes me so mad. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
keep going. That
yeah,
actually really pisses me off,
and,
man.
and see, and this is the thing, man. I hate to say this, but that was a particular YouTuber, and I like to relate things to what's on here because it is somewhat representative of what may happen in real life. But man, that was a YouTuber here that traveled to Brazil all the time. And don't you know, when that guy died, they had to bury him using GoFundMe money.
I know you talking about. That's true, man.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I'm just made it part of my decision just not to.
And,
Hopefully,
and
not to ever do that. I don't want to. If you need to do it, I understand. It's just something we need to plan
yeah,
a
but,
lot
but
better.
but but my thing is that, like, you was based. That tells me you was traveling doing YouTube videos. You really could not afford to go to Brazil that many times doing that if you could not have a basic life insurance policy. A hundred
Facts,
thousand dollar life insurance policy can cost you like $15 to $30 a month.
facts. I got it.
That
I got
is
it. Facts,
is that
facts.
that is no excuse.
Nah,
Now,
I agree. Facts.
the proper thing is that you want to get since we talking about property and all of this, passive income, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all of these things that can continue on generational wealth. I mean, a life insurance policy to me is what a lot of coaches use to get to have money and to
Yep.
have more generational wealth
Facts.
because
Facts.
they getting these $1 million, $500,000, this and that, anything that's 5, 10 times more of their income and so forth. And this is what their family inherits. And to me, I look at it like this: if you are an A grade parent or a B grade parent or even a C, that child not going to squander that money if you have already prepared them properly in you raising them and as far as their
Right.
decision making with money. They shouldn't. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I have seen other cultures in which children have inherited money and they were screw ups, and then they had basically lived great lives and they were affluent and so forth. And then when that parent left, and then now they feel like now they have this, now I have to take the mantle. They wise up,
Mm-hmm.
change their image, change what they've been doing, and they start reflecting the same things that their parents taught them. You
Facts.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. And I've seen the opposite of that where they just blew the money off and just sold whatever. But I've seen that a lot. But in our community, people don't think in terms of that. They thinking about just surviving. Again, that's the difference between surviving and thriving. Because when you're thriving, when you're no longer here, you're basically making life easier for the later generation. And to be honest with you, for black folks, what we're doing is we're starting from scratch over and over and over again, and we're not making anything easier for the next generation.
We're making it harder for the next
Yeah.
generation.
And that's why we continue to own 0.5% of the wealth in this country. Is because we continue to repeat these type of behaviors that keep us in the same situation.
Yep. And
Facts.
I think that we touched on the next one I had, which was laziness. Because it takes laziness for a parent to see, like, I don't want to believe that black parents don't know. Like, they can look around at all of this stuff in the world, see how it works, and still all of a sudden say, "Duh, I don't know." I don't want to believe that our people are that daft, right? So I'm chalking it up to laziness. The fact that you would not instill in your children what they need, and especially when you live the adulthood life, even if you didn't get to achieve it, you still know what was missing at some point if you were paying attention. So maybe they gave up on themselves too, where they did never figured out what was missing, so they can't teach their children, but that's still a form of laziness. So I'm assuming that we already tapped into that. The last two I had was trauma, which I think was spoken to on the structural racism part, is because black people have been traumatized. There's a lot of bad stuff that did happen to us. Now we have to take the initiative to get help and to support one another so that we overcome the trauma, so that we don't have to live in that forever. And then so the trauma is one, and somebody mentioned lack of emotional connection, and I think that is a result of the trauma. And then the other thing I had left was distractions or either other interests. So it's more fun to buy Gucci right now, go to the club and see how many chicks you can get to suck you off because you got a Gucci belt on, or go to the club because you got a Chanel bag, that see how many dudes will be willing to pay little trinkets like your phone bill or your rent for a couple of months till they get tired of touching you. Like, to me, other distractions and other interests, that would be like what we find out on media. Like, where everybody's learning how you don't have to cook or clean just as long as you got a box that gets wet, that you could have a
Ooh.
man. But you
Mm.
can't keep him. You can't build a family. You can't do anything
Facts.
good, but you could have a dude standing next to you that you can touch every now and then.
I
So,
feel you.
like, those two, like, out of the two left, which one y'all think we should talk about first? Trauma or distractions?
I'm
Let's
scared
go
of
with trauma.
trauma. I'm scared of trauma. I'm gonna let D Darrell take trauma, man.
Okay, what do you think, D Drill?
Kick off the trauma, D Darrell. Kick it
Man,
off, man.
when we talk about trauma, we're not just focusing on physical trauma
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. We're also talking about emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
which is also can influence the psyche of a person equally. And
Mm-hmm.
in the Black community, we have emotional and generational trauma that goes from one generation to another. It seems to spread throughout our culture in regards to that. In regards to people who have been victims of that trauma, pass on ways and behaviors to other kids, or they may utilize the same traumatic events that happened to them. They would actually treat their child or do the same things to that to their offspring, and or they may overlook the fact that that happened to their offspring
Mm-hmm.
by somebody else, which happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we have these family secrets and these
Yep.
generational curses and so forth. And so when you're operating out of a place of trauma, you don't necessarily perceive things in a logical manner. You only perceive things through the trauma that you experience. And thus, sometimes when you operate in a place of trauma, you may look at things in a way that not necessarily are benefiting you, but you may engage in self-defeating behaviors that keep you in the mindset of being in trauma.
Yep.
And and to me, when you look at certain ideologies in these spaces, there are a lot of people who adopt certain pill ideologies because it was based on trauma, relationship trauma,
Yep.
trauma of bad parenting, trauma of relationship trauma,
Divorce trauma.
marital trauma. You
Divorce
know,
trauma. Red pill. Slash red pill. Shout
I'm
out red
not gonna
pill.
say the word. I'm gonna let you say it, but I
Red
want
pill.
everybody to get my drift because now at this point, for me, everything that I talk about in this standpoint, I'm going to relate it to YouTube things in particular sectors to make it more uh relatable.
No.
So that's how trauma in our culture presents itself, and so on. And I think that the thing that we should be promoting is healing.
Yep.
Do you think the
Where the
pill you think the pill
where the
community's
healing.
trauma? My bad. You think the pill communities offer trauma?
Yes.
No. I mean, it's based off of trauma. I thought you was getting ready to say if they offer help for trauma. No.
Oh no, they don't help. No, they
Oh no,
perpetuate the
no.
trauma.
It's based on trauma because nobody comes into these pill communities happy. Everybody
No
comes in with,
facts.
with, with, with a story of how they got fucked. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse, but how they
That's all
got
right.
messed over, how they
No, you're
got
right.
messed over, or what
Red pill
happened to them.
rage. Red pill rage. I feel you.
Yeah, and see,
Well, because you can't stay in red pill rage. I get the anger. I understand it. But it should be so short lived that there's not a name for it. Calling it red pill rage makes it a thing that you
No,
can
that's true.
stay in. And that's a place where you're
Facts.
very angry and bitter and you're not living your life. Like once you discover the lie, you're now trapped in the fact that somebody lied to you as long as you are in red pill rage. You're
That's
still
true.
living your life by the fact that somebody lied to you. So that means all of the good things that you're supposed to get after that person lied to you, where they regret lying to you, you don't even get to have until you let go of that. So
Oh,
you
that's true.
trapping yourself in it.
Yeah, that shouldn't, like you said, most times that shouldn't be too long. You shouldn't be red pill rage. I'm trying to get to level 4 MGTOW monk, so that's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, it has its purpose, like I feel like you can't force all of these things. you know,
it got its
you
purpose.
yeah,
Shit.
you can't force yourself to go to
Now
monk
I'm getting
mode,
there.
man. It gotta be because you
I'm
have
getting
reached a
close.
place where something matters enough to you where you don't even notice you turning down chicks. If you
Nah, I'm
forcing
already
yourself to
there.
go into it, it's hard.
Nah, I'm already there. I'm just
Yeah,
focusing on real estate,
Man, let
focusing
me
on
tell you
teaching.
something.
I'm getting there. I'm getting close.
I,
right.
I'm gonna say this: anything that teaches you to sway away from your nature,
Mm-hmm.
I have issues with it. I have issues with that because by nature, that is not what man was made to do.
Yeah,
Right.
but you got to think too.
You can
Go.
rationalize things and intellectualize the reasons behind it, but that's not the true nature of men. or
I
women.
got a question, D. Darrell. You're right, but as you get older, your testosterone goes down a little bit, so you
It
start
does.
moving a little different. Yeah, I mean
So what
that's
does that
natural.
mean?
That's natural.
Yeah, but what does that mean? That means you're gonna still stop. That don't mean that you're gonna stop wanting to be with the opposite sex.
Just less. You don't want to be with the opposite sex as
No, it
much.
don't. Not that doesn't necessarily. No, it don't mean you may not want to be less. You may not be physically capable, but your mind may still think of the females in the same manner.
I'm just moving a little different, man. I hear you. I just move a little
Yeah, no,
It
different,
just
man.
ain't as excitable, I think, as you get
Facts.
older. Because
Facts.
you like, you got to think about it though. By the time you get 70, how much box you think you done had in the world? If you was living
Facts.
your life, you done had so much box to where it don't
Lord.
excite you no more.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. Tell it to my dad. He 83 years old.
I feel you. I think
He
Maybe
he.
your
don't
dad
think
is finding new and inventive ways to use
Yeah,
the
I think
box.
your dad's an
Maybe he's just
outlier.
creative.
Shout out to him though. Shout out to him though. He my role model.
Yeah,
Because
because he
I mean,
shit. He my role
it's only
model
so
too.
much you could do. Like,
Topaz. Talk to him, Topaz. Talk to him, Topaz. After you done
I mean,
flipped it
I'm
up
not
and
a
rubbed it
dude, but
down and shit.
I have older uncles and stuff. I listen to them talk. Like, they feel like at this point, like, I wish, like, if you only knew how they think about the box and women, they sound like a lot of these red pill dudes. But here's the difference: they came to that naturally and gradually, and that's what I want young men to understand. Once you get enough box in the world, you've done everything you could possibly think of to a box. You can't imagine another type of angle that you could hit a bitch box in. Like, there's nothing left. Then it's like,
Facts.
okay, damn, I'm over it. Like, I don't give a fuck, bitch.
Facts.
So you got a fat ass. So what? I don't care.
Facts. Facts. Preach, Topaz. Preach.
So I've seen it. Like,
Preach.
I haven't lived it. I'm not a man, but I've seen
Preach. Boy.
like what happens when
I'm
you
gonna be honest
feel
with
when
you.
you're satiated.
I've never heard men talk like that of any age.
Oh,
Man,
I have,
listen,
I ain't
man.
never
my
heard
uncles
men
was out
talk
there
like
getting it.
that.
I heard
I done made
I,
it rain.
I'm gonna be honest with you. As particularly younger men, but I've never. Matter of fact, when I see old men talking about women, and my dad has a barbershop, and so in barbershops you get all the. I hear
right.
men of all ages, 60, 70. My dad's 80, and he still likes to work and do, and with his barbershop he's had for over 50 years. They still talk about women. Now they may not talk about it in the same manner as a younger guy, but they still fantasize
Well, and
about
here's the
women
thing.
the
They
same
don't
way.
talk about sex as much, but they do talk about women because see, women become a different priority for you at that age. Once you done had all the different angles of box you could possibly imagine, right? Off from 0 to 180. Once you've done that, right? Like women have a different priority, a different value to you. Now, what's the woman that you can trust? Now, what's the woman that's gonna be looking out for you? What's the woman that even knows like what you need and how to take care of you, what to look for, what to pay attention to, what to bring in the house? Like it's different stuff that they want out of women.
Right.
Facts.
So I
So
know, but
so
they never give up on women. Like that, they can't even like now. What they will say is they do not want to live a life where it's all men, because they will let each other know. Listen, nigga, it's about 10:30. I'm tired of looking at
exactly,
y'all
but
niggas.
but but
I'm
but
gonna
but
go
this
home.
means, but the acronym is men going their own way. So that says what it says. But I want to say this as far as the trauma and so forth. You know, a lot of times we tend to normalize trauma in our community and so on. And to me, I think that's very dangerous in how we can normalize and think that someone is supposed to talk to you this way. Someone is supposed to, overstep their boundaries or do different things to you that they shouldn't be doing. And I think that that's something that needs to be corrected. Is that we tend to make things that should not be done, that can be somewhat problematic for us, and we tend to look at it as if it's okay. That's just a part of the culture in which it should not be.
Facts.
And yeah, and you know why people normalize it, right? Why does the black community normalize trauma? It comes from a place of either one, helplessness, or either two, just like laziness and selfishness. And the reason I say that is because helplessness, right? If you know that a child has been abused and there's nothing you could do about it, there are a lot of parents that then won't report it because it's like, okay, but then what we gonna do? Who gonna pay the bills? How we gonna survive? And that's messed up. Because now at that moment, that parent needs to understand that you're placing the burden of this family structure onto that child. So to be honest with you, that's the person that's in charge of this family. Okay, you not, because you're not doing parental and adult things. And second of all, if it's selfishness and, like spite or bitterness, right? Well, it happened to me. Or either, well, I'm not going to get rid of this person because they mean something to me and this is what having children do. Well, you were supposed to figure that out, right? Before you had the child that don't belong to this person. And then, like, we normalize trauma for selfish reasons. No, at this point, we can't keep blaming slavery. Yes, slavery did something bad in the beginning, but a lot of the stuff they're not still doing. If they're not doing it anymore, it's now time for us to realize that we're doing this now. We're keeping it going. And a lot of people don't even want to change. They don't want to get no help. They don't want to be no different.
Facts.
And how many people do y'all know that are getting something out of somebody being abused, right? There's a thing called exploitation. There are some women that will fully know that their children are getting abused, but because they're older and the man don't really like them, the man really likes the younger child, that they'll keep the man around as long as the bills getting paid for them to survive and feel like, oh, well, the kid will make it. They'll be all right. Since they got so much of a life ahead of them, once they get out of here, then they can go and be okay. And you got parents that still will never admit to what they did. They will never apologize. They will never make amends. That's damaging as well. It's not wrong for you to basically when you apologize to a child for something that you did wrong, little do y'all know the child does not sit there going, yes, got him, I'm in charge. No, that never crosses a child's mind because they have to be taught to think in such a manner. What crosses that child's mind is, oh, what my parent did was wrong and they're sorry that they hurt me. That's it. The rest of that is projection and it's conjecture.
Right. I agree.
Facts. Yeah, I've seen that up close with that. With parents just selling kids out, it's crazy, man.
Exactly.
This is
crazy. A lot of these parents do fully know what's going on. Oh, they just don't say nothing.
Yeah, I've seen it up and close and personal. It was really super weird, to be honest. I was super confused, but.
Yeah, but look at the type of parents you had, Professor Black Ops. So,
yeah,
you couldn't imagine, you couldn't fathom something like that.
Oh yeah, my mom or dad would never done that. Like you said, it's just crazy. But like you said, I don't know if it's pandemic or people struggling, so they, like you said, trying to do it by any means necessary. That's me giving them an excuse. It's just crazy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If anybody's ever come across me, they don't get to say by any means necessary, I had zero other choice. Because if I come across somebody, I'm at least their last option. I'm there to help. I offer. I try to get people to the places. If I can't do it, I try to hook them up with people who can. So if anybody's ever come across me, they can't say they had zero other choice.
No, that's true.
All right. Well, the last one, in terms of barriers, right, to successful parenting, distractions and other interests. So to me, this would be like when we glamorize certain things like, unhelpful music. When we praise people, here's the thing that was going on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. Why do people who come home from prison get a party, but if you come home from college, you get shunned? One thing I do know is because when you come home from prison, we're happy you survived. However, my answer to that is that not to say that, oh, if you come home from prison, we just be like, oh, okay, that's what's up. Unless we know why you went in there. Let's say somebody went in there on something righteous. Let's say somebody went in there on something that they didn't actually do. Yes, we celebrate those people surviving. But the ones who went in there and placed themselves in there and they had a choice and they chose that life, no, you get nothing. You come out, you need to humble yourself. You need to show us you change before you get any support from the community. And then the people that come home from college, here's another thing. If somebody goes to college and they just get a degree because somebody told them they could, and they have no idea they're not going to be able to use this for themselves or the community, I don't think that deserves a party. But let's say somebody had a life goal plan. They went to college, they did the work, and they still on track. They got a business plan. They got like they 5 and 10 year plan lined out. That means they went to college not to just waste people's time and money. They went there to actually, like, this was a step on the way to being beneficial to themselves and the family and the community. That deserves a party. So there's some people that go to prison that can get a party, and there's some people that go to college that can't get a party. and vice versa. So what do y'all think about
that. Well, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna have to do a little pushback on the college graduate that may not know how to use the degree. At
that?
least they showed the ability to do something positive. I think they did. I mean, whether or not they have a goal or not, there are certain things that certain uh, jobs that you can qualify just for the fact of having a minimum of a degree. Uh,
Right.
just because
Facts.
the reason why I'm saying that is because um I was a little pissed off at something that happened to me when I graduated out of college. It's not that I didn't receive a party because I didn't want that. My family, as far as I wasn't this is the issue that I got upset with. It wasn't the fact that I graduated out of college with a psychology degree, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know it's very limited things you can do with a psych degree. You have to go back to get other. It's a stepping stone for if you want to work further in the field to specialize. So what I didn't like was the fact that not my immediate family, because my immediate family, my parents took me out. We went to a nice restaurant. We had a nice time. They always supported me. But what I didn't like was the reaction of extended family that
Oh
I
yeah.
supposedly have a big family, and I never forget, man, my grandmother, man, and matter of fact, she actually died the same year, man, and I never forget this. I graduated in my bachelor's in May of '99. She died that summer, like probably about 2 to 3 months after that. And I never forget this. I had graduated and stuff, and to me, I wasn't expecting, but like, hey, congratulations, because I'm only the third person to grad. At the time, I was the third person to ever graduate, and from my family, and my two sisters were the other two. My oldest sister was the first. My youngest sister, who's 5 years older than me, she graduated, and I was the third person. So we only had one of her children, the only one that actually had at the time college graduates in the family, period. And what happened was I had another family member that was in jail, got out of
Mm-hmm.
jail, and they was like, "Oh man, you was this man. We happy to see you, man. You made it." And he went there doing wrong things, and they were just
Yep.
ecstatic and, man, brother, we gonna get back in this. Da-da-da. And then he went back to doing the same stuff that led him in
Yep.
there in the first place.
And
And
Facts.
that's
then,
why I said that. And let me say this, Darrell, you bring up a good point. So I don't want it to seem like I don't care that they show time and effort. Here's my thing. I want to reward, like, let's say they go to college, they didn't have like a plan or nothing, and they got a degree. If they come home and they sit down and they come up with a plan for how they're gonna use that degree, or either like, then at that point, then we can celebrate, because I want to reward them for knowing. I don't want them to just coast and glide through life, you know?
right,
So that's the point, is I'm just withholding the party until they come up with like a good plan for how they're going to use that degree. Or
okay,
let's say that they don't, let's say that they feel like that degree, you know what, I messed up, I should have got this one, I'm gonna go back and get a different one. Then when they finish that one, they will have a plan. So my thing is, I don't want people to hide out. You know, we were talking earlier about people hiding out in college, like never finishing,
right. That is
constantly
true. People
enrolling in
people do
stuff.
that. People
Exactly.
do
I have
that.
a best friend that has 3 bachelors, you know, and like, for why? Why did you need to spend 12 years? You remember like Lynn on Girlfriends.
Yeah, all those degrees and stuff and did nothing with it.
And it was solely for the purpose of never having to go into the real world.
Right.
The Topaz, the only issue I have with the super small is I think only 12% of black people get a bachelor's degree. It's super small.
I know
Yeah.
that's my point. Being that I was, I hear what you're saying, but I want to also point this, Topaz, because you're looking at it which from a correct lens, but it's also from a lens of a person that is also educated. But when you
Oh.
look at it from present of somebody
I
that,
think it's trauma.
but when you
Really?
look at it from when you got like, people that half of them even got got a high school diploma, and others may have got a high school diploma and so forth.
Facts.
And so my thing is, I do see the logic in what you're saying, because it is logical from your perspective of, yeah, you got a college degree, but what you gonna do with it? But
Facts.
the fact that the fact that I'm looking at it from the perspective of somebody at least trying to do something, even though they may not know
True.
what direction they want to go, at least they did something. They tried to
That's
accomplish something.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Facts.
and it's better
Facts.
to me. I would trade in a college student who graduates with no criminal record, as opposed to some fool that's constantly going back in jail for doing nothing. At least that college graduate in some way can, you know, maybe somewhere down the line make, even though they got something
Right.
that they're not using, they can
Well,
propel
and
that
all
to
I'm
something
doing is
positive.
withholding the party until they get to that. Like, all right, come on, I'm lighting a fire in the ass. Get to the point where you figure out. Now,
Boom.
here's another thing, though. So you're comparing it to the criminal aspect, right? Those were two of the same. Like, I was just doing that because that's how most people compare it. What I actually compare it to, right, is a person that doesn't go to college, but they finish a trade in 18 months, and let's say 3 years after high school graduation. Not only do they have their trade certificate, but they also are up and coming in that field, making money
And,
on set to be able to own their own business, or either at
and they
least be
and they
somebody to be
deserve.
reckoned with in the field, and that deserves amazing
Yes,
parties and
I
accolades
agree.
too.
That
Facts.
deserves admiration also. I think that anybody that went and got certifications, got a trade,
Right.
once they
Because we
completed,
need one of
they deserve
everything.
a
We need
celebration.
those. We need
Yeah.
HVACs. We need electricians. We need plumbers. We need construction workers. We need truck drivers. We need all of those things that have certifications for them. Like, here's the thing: people get mad about these certifications and degrees, right? All that is a paper that lets people know that once they see that paper, that you have been trained at least with this minimum, so they know what they're hiring. That's all that is. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you a lesser person. All it does is show what you did with your time and the knowledge that you are supposed to have. Because hopefully, before you got that paper, somebody tested you enough to know that if you get out there in the field working in that career field, that you'll be able to be competent. That's all that does. Like, it's
Yeah.
not your identity. My name ain't degree. I have an actual name.
Right.
I'm a person with a personality and wants outside of my job. So, like, to me, I feel like that's all that does. And if people want to have that paper to say that yes, we did our vetting, that means if I call this university, that means if I call this trade school, they're gonna say yes, they did show up here and do the work. That is a reference. It's a recommendation letter. That's it.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah. So my thing is that, that happened. I'll never forget that, man. And my grandmother told me, you got to understand that when you trying to accomplish something and do something, not just because that's your relatives, don't mean that they for you. There are people that envy the
Exactly.
fact that you did what you did, and they looking
Facts.
at you sideways because, and she said, I was looking like, damn. And she was actually like basically on her deathbed. Like, she probably lived like another 2 to 3 months, but that resonated with, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, every time you try to succeed and do something, everybody's not gonna be happy for you.
Facts.
Everybody not going to value the fact that you went and got this education, because they don't
Mm-hmm.
value it itself. And that's the point I want to look at, is that in our community, do we really value education and trade as much as we should, for the fact that
Nope.
we show more admiration towards somebody that's doing negative, and as opposed to somebody that's striving for excellence in their respective fields.
Exactly.
Facts.
And that's why I put this under distractions and other interests. And here's the reason why is because we're not paying attention to the bigger picture. I find it hard to believe, like, we're not an unintelligent culture, okay, of people, but we do get easily distracted. And so
Facts.
the turn up for right now, for today, this weekend, is greater than the turn up forever in life. Because see, with this turn up this weekend right now, you have to eventually turn down. Either because you run out of resources, somebody shut the party down, or because you got bills. Your choice. But if you wait for the turn up to be the eternal turn up, where you done with everything, you set yourself up to be in a place where you can be independent, you don't have to turn down.
Facts.
So we look at all of the stuff that's on the media, and we try to do it now. We're impatient, so we try to do it now, and that's a distraction from
That's
looking
an
at the overall
Instagram
big
life.
picture.
That's an
Exactly.
everybody's got the Gucci, the flooding shoes. Everybody's taking extravagant vacations at 22. So
Exactly.
everybody think they're behind. But I just want to chime in. The only time I think they value education, I know Buffy, y'all gonna co-sign on that. They don't care about it until the family needs something and everybody comes to
Mm-hmm.
you for money.
Yep.
Right,
Hey man, I
right.
don't want to talk. Man, look,
Say,
man,
I'd have
that's
hit
a
a
whole
nerve. I'd
nother
have hit a
show,
nerve.
brother. Man, that's a don't. Let's not even, man.
Yeah.
Another
Stories.
stream, another
That's a whole
stream.
nother. That's another show in itself. That's a
So,
series.
so I know we all
Yeah,
know what that
I've been
is.
thinking about ways to do that as a stream because it does happen. Even like I got yelled at for not becoming a lawyer or a doctor, and I went into the psych field
What?
until somebody got to go to court and need somebody to vouch for 'em.
Wow. Are
Facts,
you
facts.
serious? Why did they try to do it themselves?
Here's the thing, because but you know what? My justification for when I get yelled at for not being a lawyer or a doctor, right? For me going to psychology is because my justification with that is, like black people getting killed in the street every day for minor offenses. White people get off with murdering a whole town because they were depressed at 13, but it was documented. Ours isn't documented, right? So now,
Okay.
also to answer your other question, why didn't they do it themselves? Because they wasn't going to do neither one of them themselves. It was always going to be me to do one of them. But
Facts.
Exactly.
they had picked out what they wanted me to do and that they thought would be more helpful. So here,
Facts.
everybody got all these opinions about my life and where I should go to benefit them, but it was never going to be them the one to do it.
Yeah, they should be
Facts.
Meanwhile,
benefiting
I'm the
themselves.
youngest.
Facts. So I knew Buffy. I would understand that. I was sending so much money through MoneyGram. The girl at this started calling me Black Santa. I was sending so much damn money.
See,
Nah, I can't, man.
see,
I I nipped that in the bud like 10 years ago, man.
Well, it's
With that,
kind of my mom was alive and my mom was doing that. So I told her this. I said, I called my mom, baby. I said, baby, let's do this. I'm gonna have everybody come through you. Whoever you want to bless with money, I send it. 2 weeks later, she goes, them niggas ain't working. All they want is money. I go, now you see what I'm talking about. So
exactly.
I said, whoever
yep,
you want to get the money, let me know and I'll send it. She
man.
said, don't send them niggas no money.
I had story after story. I had to basically literally tell people, don't call me again. Like, don't even bother. I block you. You know, I ain't talked to you in 5 years, but you need $500. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, man, shit, man. To be honest with you, shit, I had a
Facts.
this is one of the best stories I had. I had two aunts tried to use the church. The
Oh, they
church
will.
needed $4,000
Mm.
to get a sign that they wanted to advertise for people to come to church, and they tried to use the church to finesse me out of $4,000.
Man, that's
Yep.
crazy. But
Either
I
I
that
told
or
said,
they'll
all my
throw scripture at you and tell you about why you supposed to help the least fortunate and all of that. And then my thing with that is, it's interesting how when you want money out of me, you suppose whatever you do to the least of them, that whatever that scripture was. But then when I need money out of y'all, is if you don't work, you don't eat.
facts. Facts.
So like the whole Bible backwards and forwards, then you ought to know you should if you read to the end, you ought to realize that I'm supposed to tell your ass no, because that's gonna distinguish whether you a leech or whether you truly just need help. There is a distinction. Y'all know at the end, right? So like, the fact that I grew up in the church, people try to use that against me, but you can't.
No,
yeah,
I'm
man,
with you.
I tell them, look, it's all good and dandy, but the answer is no. Have a
Right.
great day. Bye.
No, I've been there
And then I
before.
hear from another family member, man, Darrell, you was cold. You shouldn't have done it. I
Yeah.
said, no. I said, it's my money. How you gonna tell me what to do with my money?
Yeah,
Facts.
and
You know you
and
could
how
have helped.
y'all know I ain't have like this money earmarked for something that could have been beneficial for the family if y'all had just set up. See, like the whole reason why y'all don't have nothing is because you're impatient and you want all of the money right now so you can blow it. The fact that
Facts.
I'm saving is how you know I ain't have an earmark for something that would have helped us all in the long run, but you want it right now. So that, and or either if you call me and I ain't doing nothing. The answer, like when you ask me what am I doing, you don't actually care about what I'm doing. You trying to figure out how remorseful you got to sound to get me to give up what it was that I was already planning on doing. Sometimes the answer is I wasn't doing anything today, meaning I'm not moving.
Right.
Facts. Facts.
Crazy, but that's the reality. That's the reality, man. That's our people. But you know,
But that's the point why we doing this, D. Real, because hopefully somebody will stumble across this and we're gonna change it. Now so today we talked about the grading system, and we also talked about the barriers to us being able to be excellent and above average parents. So y'all stay tuned for episode 3 of this series, which will be the last one, unless y'all bring up some good points, right? Where we'll talk about the relationships, the way you treat your children, what your parenting is in effect, like on the attachment styles, how well your kid is able to get along with the world. Let's think about it this way, right? You raise your kids to leave you and go off into the world and become sufficient adults where you can have your life back. That's a benefit. But if you raise a child that is too attached to you or too withdrawn from you, you're not going to get to be able to rest in peace that your child is taken care of and safe and doing what they need to do. So the attachment, well, they're supposed to formulate a bond with their friends. One thing that happens in the Black culture is the parents want to be their kids' friends. They want to choose who their kids hang out with, and that's good up to a point. But you can't stifle your kids' growth where they're never allowed to leave you ever. Right?
Facts.
Your child is supposed to bond with the people their age because that's who they're going to be working with. That's who they're experiencing the same nuances of life with. They don't have anything in common with you because the time you lived in is already gone. Your kids aren't living that out. They're living what you created, not what you lived. So
Facts.
they are supposed to bond with people their age. And if they can't do so effectively or appropriately, you're throwing a monkey wrench into what's necessary for our survival as a culture, right? So next time we're going to be talking about the relationship you have with your child, your parenting style, and how that affects their attachment styles to you, as well as their romantic partners, their friends, their co-workers, strangers. And we're also going to end it with what will it take to change this? So we're going to get to the solution of all of this in the episode 3. Are there any other questions down there that y'all want us to talk about before we get out of here? So we'll give it a couple of minutes to see if y'all got any other questions. So D Darrell, you have anything you want to add today about the barriers to excellent parenting or the grading system?
no, I think we covered pretty much everything in detail. It was a wonderful discussion, and I appreciate being here. It was definitely stimulating conversation and something I definitely enjoyed talking about that pretty much relates to what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I don't have anything further to add at this moment.
Well, and I do appreciate you coming through, D Darrell, because it's always nice for people to know it ain't just me. Like I feel like you coming on the panel, you bring the added bonus of it being a male's perspective from this field, and also you kind of let people know that it's something that came from the field, the study of psychology. This is hundreds of years of people looking at human behaviors. At the beginning of it, it was people just sitting down writing what they thought because they were interested in the why of human behavior. And then they tested it out with theories. This is not something that's just half cocked and thought of today. There have been things that were thought of that were that were disproven through future research. So it's
Right,
not me just saying it because I feel like saying it.
right, exactly.
Facts. Topaz,
How
only
about
thing.
you, Black Ops?
Oh,
You
I
got any?
enjoy it. No, the only thing I think you should add, and I think I touched on a little bit, is sometimes old people just need to get out the way. I think sometimes you get
Yep,
old, you need to let the young lions get in there and take over. We just be blocking the path.
true, very true, and that's not a bad thing. When I tell old people to get out the way, that to me is your reward. It's
Facts.
job done. You're off the clock. Because at some point, it ain't nothing you can do about it anyway.
I'm gonna
So
give you
why spend your life still overly involved in it? If you have faith in who you raised, then you
no
don't have to sit around worried all the time. And
same.
that's retirement. Retirement is supposed to be relaxation,
Yeah,
where you don't have to set an alarm clock, where you know things are taken care of because of the work you did in your younger years. I don't
right.
understand why when I tell old people to get out the way that's a bad thing. That's supposed to be
Because
what we strive towards.
no, because they greedy, they want fame, and they still want the glory. I'm gonna give you 3 out of Chicago, and I'm gonna shut up.
And
Fair,
bored. They're
fair,
also
fair,
bored and don't have a
fair.
hobby like knit or bake some cookies or something.
Right.
Or go fishing. Go ahead, Professor Black Ops.
Farrakhan's 80, Jesse's 80, and Al Sharpton's 80. Why them niggas still on the why they still out front? Tell them to get out the way. Them three
Yeah,
dudes
Because
is in
they haven't
Chicago. They
They
old as
haven't
hell.
built anybody that they
No,
can
they
that
don't.
they
They do.
believe.
They don't want
especially
to. They don't
Farrakhan.
want to. They don't want to. They in the way. Go ahead. Go ahead, D. Real. They don't
Yeah,
want to get out the
especially
way.
I was just talking about this the other day with Farrakhan. I'm like, man, like you making you rebuilt the nation, and then you're gonna repeat the same mistake that Elijah Muhammad made when he died.
Facts.
He didn't have a successor. Now you basically on the verge of potentially dying at any time, and then you ain't gonna have
Oh,
a
Farrakhan is
person.
in his 80s, ain't he? Farrakhan's
Huh?
in his 80s, ain't he? Ain't he in his 80s?
Who? Farrakhan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Farrakhan like 85, 86 years old.
Yeah, that brother should have stepped down, man. He got all them young dudes in there.
I told him,
Just in the way.
I was like, Farrakhan should have stepped down or actually put another person in place to do the work and lead at least 20 years ago, man.
Ease by
20,
yeah.
when he was about six, man, you get about 65, close to 70. It's time to let it go. Have another person that you're developing and at least polishing off. So once you're not here, they're already in the public eye. People familiar with them, and you can drop down and go into grace. But nah, you want to still be there doing stuff. I mean, and to be honest with you, when I hate to say this, when he dies, the Nation of Islam going to be irrelevant. It's basically not even that relevant as much as it was 15, 20 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
But when he go, it's going to be they're going to drop into obscurity.
They're gonna implode because they're gonna be fighting over power.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
When that could have actually been established while he was still alive.
Right. He could have been head picking him, man. Jesse's the same way, and Al Sharpton's the same way. Al Sharpton at least lost some weight, but shit.
Well, and that's the point. Like, if you can't, if you can't put somebody in charge, I feel like you should feel like it's failure. If I would feel like a failure if my kids can't run a family, efficiently when I'm the one that taught them. So if you develop a movement and you haven't sufficiently groomed somebody, that means selecting somebody that will still be around and available and spry enough to take on things
No,
when you need to sit down. That means you picked wrong,
that's
and
true.
then you didn't train them well. So
So,
I
Patty,
feel
this
like if you got to do it till you die, you ain't do it
right.
right.
This is my last story, real quick. 2 minute story. My mom was 92. She was dying, so I had to talk to some lady in the hospital. And I'm
Mm.
talking, and my mom told me everything to do. And she looked back to the doctor said, "Your mom's back there smiling." I go, "She trained me for this point. She told me what to do, and I'm executing her plan." She said, "Your
Mm-hmm.
mama just back there smiling and nodding." I said, "Cause she told me what the plan was." Right? So
Cool. Well,
good night.
Topaz, you about to drop off. Are you about to
Yeah,
go ahead and
I
call
got
it a day?
yeah, I got to be at work in 6 more hours.
Yeah, I want to thank y'all for coming through, because this conversation is better had when there's people asking questions, because I don't mind answering questions. I mean, I'm loquacious. I think everybody know by now I will talk and take over a panel. So,
Yeah,
I came up with this. It wasn't overnight. It was something that I've been thinking about. It's dear to my heart. And as much pushback I've gotten in real life about parenting styles and what I do with my kids versus what they do with theirs, I felt like it would be remiss if at some point in my YouTube career I didn't at least touch on this. And I just want to thank y'all for being a part of it,
facts.
especially,
Cool.
and D. Darrell for bringing the other half of the field.
So,
Appreciate it.
yeah, thanks, D. Real quick, Topa. That was my little that was my little cash app.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't want to say, I had
No, that's
started to
fine.
say.
Look at the four. I put my YouTube name in the four part. It's all good. So I just
Yeah, no,
want
I saw, like, after I started with the name, because it was at
it's
the
all
top.
right.
I saw the message. I was like, wait.
You fine. Just say from Professor Black. I had
Yes, Professor Black Ops was the other cash app here
nah,
today.
you
I
good.
messed up. I
Nah, you
accidentally.
good. You good.
But
Kitty,
I said the first name, but they
you
still don't know the
fine.
last name.
You fine. I ain't really worried about it. I'm so square. It ain't gonna make a difference. I ain't really got nothing to hide.
Right? If somebody docs me, they're gonna be like, their
Yeah,
audience gonna be pissed off. They're
yeah.
like, you
Everybody
spent
know
time on
me.
this.
Yeah, I'm red pill. I'm easy, man. I'm old. I'm shutting down. I'm getting out the way. Yeah.
Right, right. No,
Thanks.
and I do want to thank you for coming up and asking questions and talking and giving your story, because, I mean, in my opinion, right now, I'm not blaming Black parenting. What I'm saying is we got to wake up to the fact that there's a problem. We can't be in denial anymore. Because if it wasn't a problem, we would be happier with the results of it. If we have intergenerational wars all of the time, that means there is a problem. We
I didn't even
haven't
think
figured
about
out a
that.
culture that can be sustained and passed down with, because why? Because we haven't proven to the next generation that what we say is true.
Oh, I agree with that. That's 100% true. I never thought about that intergenerational. I know we were having the gender war. I never thought about the intergenerational war.
Man, look, like, so every time, like, even if it's not just head on conflict, right? If you got younger people in your family sneaking around and doing the opposite of what they know you would like, that means they don't truly believe what you're saying is real. Now, there's some of that that's just teenage rebellion, but if you got that happening still with people who are 40 and their parents are 60, you get that happening with people who are in their 20s and their parents in their 40s or either their 50s. These are people that are all grown and for whatever reason are legally allowed and morally allowed to do what they want. Why is there still sneaking? They're still arguing. They're still catcalling and backbiting and disrespecting rumors and all of that intergenerationally. The cookout, everybody is smiling, when the food is out. Then when the liquor comes out, the fighting start until everybody gets tired, and the next day, then everybody want to wake up when the sun's up and apologize and all of that. Like, that's just not necessary if we all get our shit together.
Yeah, but like I was saying though, ain't nobody passing the wealth on. The kids see other races of kids moving differently, so like you said, they're confused or thinking that elders are failing. So
Yeah, because here's the thing, bitterness equals failure. What else would you be bitter about? If you got what you needed and you got the answer right, you wouldn't be bitter. You wouldn't be upset. So if you got a parent that's always negative and bitter all of the time, that right then is the first signal that tells the child that this motherfucker might just be a failure.
that's true, but they complain about racism.
That's distraction. That's distraction because racism plays a part. But racism, listen, we could overcome racism. We would still be better off if we were unified, whether that was racism or not. And then we could build together and trust one another and keep with the plan that we come up with and eventually overcome racism. But you notice that means unity, it means trust. Two things we don't have in our
Oh
culture.
yeah, I'm bad about that. I'm a one man army, which means I can easily be knocked off my square. So I hear you.
Right. Okay, well, I want to
All
thank
right,
everybody in
guys.
the chat. Go ahead, Deidre.
No, I was just about to say I'm just getting ready to go ahead and bail out. I gotta get going. But
Me too,
Yeah.
man. They got me up here talking.
appreciate you for having me on, Topaz. Look forward to part 3.
Okay, no problem. I'll definitely email you. We'll talk about the time and we'll get it set together.
All right.
So I want to thank everybody that came out in the chat. Professor Black Ops for beaming up, coming, sharing his stories. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. That was very, very, very brave. Everybody that had their comments. Hopefully I answered all of the questions that you guys have. If, as always, if you have any other questions, any requests, leave it in the comment section below after the video is ended. So thank you guys and good night. Bye, everybody.